This is a Chris Combs production.
Hi. Thanks for joining me today. Um, yeah. Let me just start off by saying what we've seen in the past 24 hours should not come as a surprise to anyone. I mean, this has been building before our very eyes, honestly, since 2015. I mean, we've shouted, we've tweeted, we posted about it, and we tried to draw attention to the dog whistles in Trump's rhetoric. We were called snowflakes, crybabies, and told that we had a victim mentality. Well, this morning, the sanitation staff at the Capitol spent their morning sweeping up glass and blood after pro Trump domestic terrorists took to the streets, defied police orders, attacked police, and broke into the Capitol building. They even tried to break into the chamber with members of Congress still being inside, leading to one person being shot and killed. 4 people were killed yesterday, and over 50 were injured. For me personally, it's hilarious, but it's also frustrating and it's heartbreaking at the same time to see how the entire event unfolded. I found it hilarious that the same people who attacked Colin Kaepernick and others for kneeling and told us to respect America are the same ones who stormed the Capitol building while members of Congress were trying to do their civic duty, breaking glass and even going so far as to replacing the American flag with the Trump flag. I found it hilarious that the same people carrying a back the blue flag and screaming all lives and blue lives matter are on camera attacking and risking the lives of the very people that they say matter. I found it hilarious that the president of the United States just a couple of months ago tweeted that those who are caught vandalizing federal buildings and property will face a minimum of 10 years in prison and will be dealt with harshly, only for his own supporters to violate that very law. However, I found it infuriating and heartbreaking the fact that Colin Kaepernick was treated as public enemy number one for protesting systemic racism and police brutality. If taking a knee, which was widely considered a sign of respect, is disrespectful, what do you call attempting to attack those who are responsible for protecting and governing our democracy? What's infuriating and heartbreaking is the discrepancies on how this situation was handled compared to the Black Lives Matter protests in Washington, D.C. earlier this year or last year. Peaceful protesters were tear gassed and arrested for exercising their First Amendment right. The president had peaceful protesters tear gassed to clear them from in front of a church, so he could take a photo op that showed him as some type of authoritative leader who didn't tolerate insurrection, only to stand back and stand by when his own supporters actually rioted in the Capitol. This was the time for him to flex his muscle. But instead, they were told that their feelings were understood and that he loved them. They were called patriots by his daughter. What's infuriating and heartbreaking is watching some of the police officers let protesters into the Capitol building and then take selfies with them. Well, I mean, that kind of makes sense if you've been paying attention. However, it's nonetheless infuriating. What's also infuriating and heartbreaking is that the day before, it was announced that no officers would be charged in the shooting of Jacob Blake, who was unarmed and shot in the back 7 times by police officers. But we somehow saw police officers use extreme restraint when authorization for deadly force was clearly there. We have marched peacefully for equality and civil rights and have been met with fire hoses, police dogs, and tear gas. They can't accept a loss in an election and rise up against the government and are met with understanding and love. There are 2 different versions of America, and this past year has shown us both. It's amazing. We all know what would have happened if those who were at the Standing Rock Reservation or any Black Lives Matter protester would have done what they did yesterday. Let's be real. And let me touch on one last thing. I know I've been on Facebook and I posted my memes and I posted my statuses where, I joke a lot, but a lot of truth is said in jest because, they apply to the situation. But I couldn't help but notice the interaction that I had with someone who typically says they hate both sides. He took the time, shout out John, to say that this is what happens when both sides are being, basically not doing their duty, and you got the Democrats and the Republicans not doing their part, not doing their job. I call bull fucking shit. Let me stop you there. Because yesterday was not about legislation. It was not about failed legislation. It wasn't about healthcare. It wasn't to protest a war that they found unjust. Yesterday was not about ideological differences. Yesterday was a temper tantrum thrown by a fan base that was incited by their leader. This isn't the work of both sides. This is the work of a man who says that everything from the Emmys to the Nobel Peace Prize is rigged when he doesn't get his way. What we are seeing today is a fruition of letting dog whistles go unchecked. Again, this isn't about legislation. This is an attack on democracy, and it's led by one person and his base. But ladies and gentlemen, this is America.